Welcome to another episode of Meet the Author live from book publisher New Degree Press, or NDP. I'm your host, John Saunders. The NDP is part of Manuscripts, Inc. This enterprise has now published over 1,700 authors from 6 continents and earned a spot on the Inc. Magazine 5,000 list for the second year in a row. This is a list of the fastest growing privately held companies in America. Think you have a book in you? Want to start or accelerate a movement in the next 12 to 15 months? Visit manuscripts.com now to learn more. This is a comprehensive coaching program that will take you from idea to published book. Not just published, but published like a second-time author, which includes audience activation and creation. Today we're doing a special segment of Meet the Author Live. This is an opportunity to learn everything there is valuable to know about the author, and we can answer your questions live in the chat. So please do that for us today, and definitely share. To start with, share where you're joining us from, so we know where our global audience is calling in from today. We've had several this week, and we've had people from all over the world. No doubt we'll have the same with our guest here today. Today with me, brand new author Xinjin Zhao, who recently published his book, The Odyssey of Self-Discovery, on becoming a leader. He also has a new podcast out with New Degree Press, the Creator Community Podcast, which premiered on February 15th. It's available on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts out there. A little bit about Xinjin, or Dr. Zhao. He spent over 30 years as a global business executive with various leadership roles around the world. He was educated at MIT and Wharton. He has always had the curiosity to try, the passion to learn, and the willingness to share. Xinjin maintains a weekly LinkedIn leadership blog with over 280,000 subscribers around the world. His interests include reading, photography, marathon running, and travel. He's now run 14 marathons and just returned from Mexico. Welcome back from Mexico, Xinjin, and welcome to the show.
Thank you, John. I'm excited.
It is great to have you here. So how does it feel? You've been writing all this time. You've got this newsletter out there. You put this book together. How does it feel to have a book out there with your name on it, available wherever you buy books online?
Oh, I have to say, it's a wonderful feeling to have the physical book. Came into my house 2 days ago, and I'm in the process of unpacking, printing all the labels, shipping to all the VIP supporter of my around the world to pre-order the book. So it's a very exciting time.
How many countries did your book get sent to, get ordered from?
About 20 plus orders are from international, including one of the orders 10 copies. So about probably 25 of my book is the international order, actually.
That is awesome. And unsurprisingly, given your background and the global nature of your work and your work in leadership over the many years, which we'll get into in just a minute. So, if you could, for our listeners, Xinjin, just share a little bit about what the author journey was like for you. How did you sort of make this happen and take an idea and turn it into a published book?
I have to go back to a few years ago. To be honest, writing a book was not my plan, or was not on my vision at the time. But about 2017, that's, I guess, 5 years ago. At the time, I was in a global business, so travel around the world, and had different customers, colleagues, and business partner around the world. Now, in the summer of 2017, I got a completely different assignment to move to China to manage an investment project. At the time, I was thinking, hey, what do I need to do to maintain this large network I had, rather than just disappear from the planet and working with a completely different group? So I started a blog on LinkedIn. In the beginning, it was about the culture, about business, about leadership, about marathon running. So slowly that became the more I write, the more I enjoy it, the more people seems to like it. Became a regular weekly leadership blog. Right now, as you said, I have about 280,000 people reading my weekly blog every Saturday. Over the last couple of years, a lot of people ask me, why don't you write a book? Why don't you write a book? But I was not ready until, I guess, March last year, when I retired. The week I retired, I signed up the program and start writing the book. So 10 months later, that's the book. So that's my journey.
Unbelievable. I love the fact that you just sort of started it as a way to stay connected. And one of the things we often talk about around here is just the powerful force that is creation. Create something, get it in front of folks. It might not be perfect the first time you get it out there, but iterate and make it better. How would you compare that to your newsletter journey along with your author journey, that setup, that sequence? Is that how it went for you?
You said it wonderfully well. The first issue of newsletter I wrote, it was the journey was a journey is the reward. It's about my marathon training. Took me about a month for me to have the courage to put out there for the world to read it. So it's writing the book. It's the same. I think like all first-time author, you question yourself. Hey, do I really know enough about the topic to write to share with the world? As long as you go with the process, you realize writing is not really about you. It's not about what you know. It's about the people you work with, the people. Like in my case, I interviewed a lot of executive leaders around the world. It's about the insights and knowledge that these share and the learnings from them. Of course, I include my own learnings throughout my career, but it's more about what do you learn from the leaders around the world, to internalize those. Of course, in the end, it's about what the authors, what the readers can internalize through your book. So it's a very similar process, I would say.
And I think there's another interesting parallel here from so many of the conversations we've had and what learning I've had about your book and what you've done out there, a parallel to writing and sort of thinking about your audience and serving them. And I think that's a really interesting parallel to how you think about leadership. Is that a fair comparison?
Absolutely. I think I guess two ways to think about it. One is really the way I look at about sharing is share to others is the best way for me to learn. Like the newsletter, every issue I put out there, there are always people commenting in different way. Oh, I never thought about that way. That's an interesting way to think about it. That's to me, it's the best way to learn, to open your aperture to see the world in a different way. I'm hoping in the book, I'm sharing my perspective. People, by looking at reading the book, like reading how other leaders think about the world or think about issue, help them open up their aperture and learn and grow in their leadership journey.
I love this, again, this parallel you're creating between sort of aperture, right? Photography is one of your hobbies out there, but taking a wider view, a wider view of perspective on things, and that can really help open up your thinking. I loved on your newsletter, I think it was last week, you shared a picture of a giraffe painting. Can you tell our listeners about that? I really love that one.
It's a cartoon I came across. It's basically the giraffe was painting, but because the giraffe is looking from the top down, all the giraffe could see was a circle of a hat a lady was wearing. That's exactly the kind of thing we deal with in the world. Is we all see the world in different perspective, and we have to recognize that everybody see things differently. When you see things, very often there is no right or wrong, just a different perspective. But the more you can understand other people's perspective, the more you can connect with the people and actually make things happen.
That one really hit me, thinking about the giraffe. He's got a picture of a lady he's trying to draw, and all he draws is the top of her hat because that's all they can see, right? And just what a great sort of wake up call, or to use Carlo Bafusa's term, reality check, to say, wait a minute, there's a different way to look at this thing. And just because I'm looking at it differently doesn't mean I'm wrong, right? And constantly questioning these things and finding a new way to look at things and being open to other people's ideas certainly feel like key themes to the story for you. I know you interviewed a whole bunch of people for this book. You also did, I think, a pretty interesting survey with your 280,000 readers of your newsletter, Xinjin. What surprised you about that survey you sent out, and what are some of the things you learned from that?
Thank you, John. Yes, as part of the book journey, I did a leadership survey with my leadership community around the world. It's in the end, actually, I was surprised at how many people actually participated in the survey. In the end, I got about 650 responses around the world in a very short time. There are some a lot of the answer validated some of the early assumption I had, but some of the answer was very surprising to me. The very first question in the survey I asked people was why, the question of why. Why do you want to be a leader? Have you ever asked yourself, why do you want to be a leader? That's the very first question. The second follow-up question along with that was, has anybody in your organization asked you about why you want to be a leader? A very similar question, but a different perspective. The result, to be honest, was shocking to me. Turns out there were about 83% of the people said, yes, I've asked myself, why do I want to be a leader? Only about 39% of the people said, anybody in the organization ever asked me, why do I want to be a leader? That's a shocking 40 to 43% gap in the process. So that's the story really come out from that statistics is a lot of people want to be a leader, and the organization expect everybody to be a leader. But very often the organization focus on what organization want rather than look at it from a perspective of what people want, what really inspire people, what truly motivate people. Because everybody as an individual human, has a different value, has a different purpose. All those are different. Unless the individual value and the organization objective are aligned, people are not going to be motivated. People are not going to be more inspired. I think that's what the story, the survey is telling. As an individual, what we need to do to figure out what our value and purpose is, whether or not it's aligned. On the other hand, the organization needs to think about how to develop a leader so that the organization objective is aligned, or at least somewhat consistent with the individual value.
Such great intention and thoughtfulness about this roadmap you're talking about here on developing leaders, getting to understand not only their why, but the values and purpose of the organization and that leader, and aligning them. Because when those two things are aligned, things can go very smoothly, results can happen. When they're not aligned, what happens?
I think only when it's aligned, then you're going to have a more authentic leaders, that you're going to have a more motivated organization. When they are not aligned, I guess you look at it from two perspectives. From an individual perspective, you have to figure out what's truly important for you. It's there is a recent article in Harvard Business School talk about the self-awareness. The research paper said that only about 10 to 15% of people truly have the ability for good self-awareness. That means 90% of us really don't have a good self-awareness. Means that you have to go through an intentional process to have this self-discovery, figure out what's truly important for you. Until you go through that process, you don't know how to align. You just running through a mill of busy on doing things rather than figure out, hey, is this really what I wanted? So from an individual perspective, you have to go through that intentional process to know what you want, what's important, and what's your objective, what's your value. Once you get that clarity, then you can figure out whether or not that's aligned with the business. From the business perspective, I think most businesses are pretty clear what the business objective is, what the organization objective is. But very often, leadership development program is a cookie cutter, one size fits all program. That doesn't necessarily work. If the individual value, individual purpose, or individual system is different, then you have to figure out how to, through individual coaching, for example, mentoring, that tend to be more effective. That's exactly what the survey result, the two top survey result about what's the best way to develop leadership. One is self-reflection, one is individual coaching, mentoring, sponsorship.
What great insights. And I think about you said what 10% of people have a high level of self-awareness. I'd be curious if they asked or did any research to find out what percent of people think they have a high level of self-awareness. I wonder if there's a correlation. It's like
there is actually a statistics in the book. I don't remember the exact number, but I think it was about 70% of the people in the U.S. academic survey think they are above average. We all think we know ourselves pretty well, but the reality is actually we're not.
It's I think I heard similar data around who people that think they're good drivers or not, right? Something like this. I want to ask you one other question on that survey you did, because I think it was fascinating, the insights that you were able to pull from there. I think one of the questions you asked was, give me some key words that describe leadership, right? What were some of those that were on the top of the list?
It's one of those survey. Typically, you want to have a close-ended so that it's not all over the place. I did purposely put in one survey question, ask a reader to put in 3 words to describe what you think leadership is. So the answer is obviously all over the place. There are 600 people answered the survey. Everybody picked some different words. What's really interesting came back. The result is very consistent with some of the assumption was, I typically think about the leadership in 3 buckets. The first bucket is what's your integrity, your value. Basically, you as an individual person, what's your value system? The second bucket is more behavior. You're passionate about something, or you really want to do something. It's more your behavior. The third bucket is your skill sets, management skill, communication skill, personal skill. Turns out this survey came back, about the top 13 out of the 15 words that's in the first 2 buckets. It's about how leaders create a vision, how you inspire people, what servant leadership is. That's what people are looking for when they think about leadership. But if you think about a lot of the leadership development program, a lot of the development program are focused on the third bucket, the skill sets. How do you manage people? How do you have a communication skill? It's an important component, but that's not most people, when they first thing they think about leadership, but they are looking for leader to create vision, create a could be a human, how to connect with the people. That's the type of thing people are looking for in terms of leadership. So that's a very insightful result from the survey as well.
Wow. So what people often spend their companies often invest their money into in leadership are the sort of the hard skills, if you will, being a better spreadsheet builder or something like this. When in fact, what most people want in a leader is better values, or more clear values, and behaviors that are more inclusive and make
a
me
better
feel like
human.
I belong. Much like we discussed on the podcast that came out the other day. That was a great segment. If you want to learn more about Xinjin and his unbelievable story, definitely go get a copy of the Odyssey of Self-Discovery on Becoming a Leader. And of course, you can visit him on LinkedIn, sign up for his newsletter there with his 280,000 friends there. And on becomingaleader.net is also a way to learn more about Xinjin and his story. I want to share a couple of comments that have come in on the chat here. We've got several that I'm getting woefully behind on. Miriam, I see Dr. Z on there. Thank you, Dr. Z, for jumping on the chat here and your nice comment there. Suzanne Roski was on the show yesterday. Bill Gilmore, thanks for joining us here, Bill. Dr. Srini Kara, quite inspiring, pay forward.
Hi, Srini.
Very nice, very nice. Hannah, thank you for joining us. Hannah Austin, in the midst of her own media blitz right now. Michael Coe, also a marathon runner, so he can relate to the many sacrifices and the training it took. It's a life-altering experience. I think he's speaking of marathons. How would you compare the marathon to a book, Xinjin?
That's an interesting question. I actually included quite a few sports story in my book, including my interaction observation with the Red Sox owner John Henry 20 years ago about his decision making, including the Boston Celtics coach. He's up and down, and a lot of sports story. But the one fundamental difference between marathon versus the other sports events is if you run a marathon, I would see vast majority of people who run marathon, not trying to beat other people, but trying to beat yourself. I think that's a very different mentality. Writing a book, it's really about better yourself. It's about compare. Did I do better than last year, or did I do versus the last one? Rather than, hey, did I beat the other component or not? That's a very different mentality in terms of marathon running versus other sports. Turns out, a writing book, I think it's a similar mindset. In that sense, it's a lot of things in life. If you focus on beating other people, you're going to have a very different mentality versus, hey, I want to be a better version of myself. I think writing book is exactly same in that process of writing book, really help you know yourself better. You actually really understand what's truly important for you. I'm hoping by reading the book, you go through that same similar reflection. By the way, in my book, I did including in each chapter, the end of each chapter, I have a leadership exercise. The idea is people not just reading it, but actually go through a reflection process to really know how to apply or how to internalize those leadership principle in actual practice.
I really so appreciate your always in-depth perspective and thoughtfulness around these really complex topics. And what I heard you say there was, instead of, there's two mindsets here, right? If I want to be better than you versus how do I better myself, right? Talking about one is very much an abundance mindset. How do we get better and maybe help those around me versus how do I beat you? And then it becomes a zero-sum game, right? And then the elbows tend to get a bit sharper and the environment can change.
That's especially in the corporate world. It's a very competitive place. If you keep thinking of trying to be better than others rather than helping others to be successful, you're going to be miserable. It's the reality is the more help you can help others succeed, the more successful you are going to be. That's a very different way to think about success.
It's in this day and age, some of the environments I've witnessed in working in corporate America and doing coaching, those concepts almost seem like foreign ideas to many people I found over time, which is fascinating. But this abundance mindset certainly is a powerful one, and one that has served you well and allowed you to help serve and help so many others along the way. I want to get to a few more great comments in the chat here. Nan, the lovely chat here. A note here from Nan. I enjoyed reading your book. Very insightful. Michael Coe appreciates a fellow Asian talk and share about leadership. Thank you, Michael, for jumping on there. I guess we get the name covered up here, but lots of support on the chat here. Thank you for sharing your passion and insights on leadership. Great way to kick off the new book. Thank you for that, Dan. And Nan, one more time, have you seen a question here for you, Xinjin? Have you seen the needs for leadership change over time, particularly in a global digital economy?
That's a very it's a very interesting question. With the last few weeks, with all this chat GDP coming out, I've been thinking about what does that mean in terms of leadership. I think it'll have a tremendous implication on leadership. What leadership means in the last few years, you already see the transition between leadership in the office versus leadership for remote worker in different places require different skill sets for leadership. I think as we move forward with the digital economy, with the AI, I think it will again continue to have that dialogue, change how we think about leadership. It's come back to the fundamental. I think it's leadership. It's about people. Leadership is not about technology. In the end, you still have to connect with the people. The more digitalized, the more you need to intentionally, consciously to connect with the people. That's how I see it in the macro level.
And talk about intention being such an important part of that, because when it's screens versus sitting in the same room, it really changes the dynamic. So it takes even more effort on the leader's behalf. I could not agree with you more on that one. So important. If you have other questions, ladies and gentlemen, please drop them in the chat, because we're about to shift over to the rapid fire questions here with Xinjin and learn everything there is valuable to know about our amazing guest we have here today. Two more quick questions before we jump to the rapid fire here, my friend. What do you think you learned about yourself through the writing journey?
I actually wrote a blog a couple of weeks ago about the 10 things I learned from writing the book. I'll just share one. It's the one thing about writing the book really is I think you get really crystallize what's important for you. That's a really, a lot of things just like we were talking about the self-awareness. You think you know what you want until you really sit down, reflect, and think about it, put it on a piece of paper. That to me, it's a self-reflection process to know myself. Hey, helping people or share the knowledge, share the experience with others, watching how other people succeed. That's something I enjoy, and that's something I just through this process, more crystallized through this process itself. I truly enjoy the process.
Wanting to see others succeed. Wow. It sounds so simple. Sounds so simple when you say it like that, and so powerful. And yet it's oftentimes a struggle when we get into this, when we don't see abundance in the world, which clearly do, or take the time to reflect and put onto paper what it is we think about and value. Love the perspective here, my friend. And looks like you've got another fan appreciating it as well. Suzanne, thank you. Appreciates the perspective. It's all about the people, right? And Rumiana, I think I got this right. Positive energy, inspiring as always. Thank you. One last question before we jump to the rapid fire. Would you write another book? Do you have one in you here, my friend?
I will write another book. That's one of my goals for next year is thinking about what the topic will be. But I am thinking of writing another book. Yes.
Amazing. I love it. Michael had a question for you, how to connect. Michael, I think LinkedIn, Xinjin is quite active on there, and there's his website as well. I think you can sign up for the newsletter and connect with him through there. Anything else you might share on connecting with you?
Just send me a note on LinkedIn. You can. That's probably the best way to connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm speaking with a lot of different groups. Just got an invitation about a college group, and I'm speaking with a high school group next week. So a lot of group. So I would be happy to connect with you, Mike.
That is fantastic. All right, let's jump over to the rapid fire questions here, my friend. We're getting close to the top of the hour here. My favorite, and I think maybe most important question, favorite sandwich, or wait, let me rephrase this. You spent half your life in China, half in America. How about favorite lunch meal?
I'll go stick with your sandwich question. One of my favorite sandwiches, Reuben sandwich. I always thought it's a European invention, but turns out that there is a long debate between Omaha, Nebraska, and New York who invented Reuben sandwich.
Of course, a beef sandwich came from Nebraska. Makes perfect sense. Favorite color?
Blue. Blue brings calm in this fast-paced world. So my favorite color is blue.
Makes me think of the ocean. Love it. Favorite, this is going to be a tough one for you here, my friend. Favorite or most memorable vacation spot? I think just since I've known you, you've been taking 2 or 3 international trips. But what's
I've been to about 40 different countries around the world. I would say maybe because it's closer, but the Kenya trip to Kenya earlier this year or last year, that was very memorable. It's the people, the culture, and the environment, just a fantastic experience.
Incredible. Such a beautiful country. Scariest animal?
Scariest animal. I don't know which one, but maybe alligator. Who knows?
I've had my heart stopped by an alligator once or twice. I lived in Florida for a few years and came across one, a few unsuspectingly. It'll make your heart skip a beat. Better fruit, apples or bananas?
I'm a runner. The banana keep me going when I do run, but I eat both.
Favorite or most memorable movie?
I would say Forrest Gump is one of my favorite. I probably watched it 10 times between the flight between US and Asia. If it's on I'm not sure why, but that movie always I'm not sure why I like it, but I love
it. I'm guessing it's something about running. Is that
something about running? Something about life is a box of chocolate. You never know what you get. It's just resonated with me in a lot of different ways.
So many great lines in there. First concert you ever went to?
First concert. I'm not sure this is count as a concert, but I was in China 3 years ago, visited a small remote village in southwest of China in Guizhou province. A group of ethnic tone group. It's a minority group, and they sang quite a few songs in the community center for us. I have the recording. Actually, it's wonderful. This is a group actually traveled to Paris, traveled around the world. It's one of those UNESCO World Heritage singing group, and that was a wonderful experience.
Sounds incredible. Favorite smell?
Favorite smell. You're probably expecting food, but for now, I have my new book on the desk. The smell of new
fresh pages
feels wonderful.
That new page smell. There's that new car smell. There's that new book smell, right?
Yeah.
I love it. Last photo on your phone.
Last photo on my phone. Last photo on my phone probably was I received all the box of books. My wife took a photo of me opening the box and trying to get the book ready, shipping to my supporters who pre-ordered my book.
You have a whole new appreciation for Amazon fulfillment centers now, don't you?
Yeah.
After going through that and signing all of them. What favorite song to sing with or without an audience?
I'm not a singer, but I see. I listen to a lot of Chinese opera, Chinese song, but something for this audience. I like Celine Dion's Titanic song, whatever that My Heart Will Go song. That's a beautiful song. I like.
That's the first Celine Dion song we've heard on this show here. Thank you for that. What is one thing you own you really should throw out?
One thing I own. I moved a lot over the last 10, 15 years, 5, 6 times. Each time we move, we throw a bunch of stuff. But I included a story in my book. For whatever reason, I never throw away a stack of 100+ rejection letter I received when I got my PhD from MIT. Was looking for a job, and the stack of rejection letter. I guess I kept it as some way as a motivation, the kind of a challenge you face in life. But maybe it's time to throw away and focus on the positive things in life.
I love the inspiration, right? Every circumstance in life provides us with a gift, right? And you certainly took a gift of inspiration from all those rejection letters and turned out an extraordinary career. What is your most audacious goal for 2023?
Audacious. I'm not sure I have any audacious goal, but 2023, I will continue to spread the message from my book, try to share the message with the audience, whoever is interested, and also, like you were asking earlier, thinking about another book, either something about the photography or something about doing business in China. I haven't decided which topic I'm going to choose.
I'm going to throw it out there for you, buddy. Doubling your LinkedIn newsletter readership. That's my goal for you.
Good.
Brett, 500,000. That would be amazing. Favorite, let's share one of your praise quotes from the book. You have a number of praise quotes on the back of the book. Would please share?
Yeah, there are a lot of fantastic reviews and feedback from my readers. I will share one from Sylvia Gallia Howard. She is based in She's based in Philadelphia, founder and CEO of Equitable Cities Consulting. She shared a quote. I thought it was really moving. Most leadership book that I have read place the authors or his subject on a pedestal. In Xinjin's book, you are reminded of their humility and imperfection, which is entirely refreshing. I thought it's a very nice way to think about it. I hope in my book it's not about how great a leader I am, but all the mistakes I made throughout my life so that others do not make the same mistakes.
So humble, so authentic, and so willing to help others along the way, Xinjin. I love your story. Most memorable part about the author journey for you so far?
I'll share one thing. I'm very proud of the cover photo I took in Great Sandview National Park, and designed the cover mostly myself. As soon as I said the click, to submit my book and the cover design, I realized I never described that part. Hey, I designed the photo, I took the photo and designed myself. So the point I want to make is, heck, nothing is perfect. That's life. That's okay.
So there's no note in your book that says, "Hey, this photo was taken by me."
I've never.
There's always the number. Somebody asked me a while ago what was the hardest part about finishing or writing a book, and I hadn't thought about it in a while, and I said deciding when it was done, because as soon as you hit that last send button and say, "All right, publisher, it's all done here," right? You're always like, "Oh, there's this one thing I forgot." Right? What would you say to those considering writing a book?
I'm see. The only regret I have about writing a book is that it would have been better if I did this 20 years ago. So, right, if you want to write a book, write early. It's write early right now, and the program John and Professor Eric Acosta set up this infrastructure. It's a wonderful community of authors to help you succeed. So don't wait.
Right. What's that old saying? When's the best time to plant a tree? 10 years ago. When's the next best time? Right now. Right.
Right. Yeah. It's I have quite a few of my fellow author on the call. I'm sure they can all tell you how wonderful this program and this community has been to make everybody has a story to tell. Everybody has a successful story in the end.
And the program really helps you extract that and really fine tune it. And of course, the editing team really makes it extraordinary and helps you get to the finish line, right? Which is hard to do. Such a small percentage of authors that start writing actually get a book published. It's far less than 1% of Americans every year get a book published. Describe your writing journey in 5 words.
5 words. Reflection. Inspiring, because all the people I talk to, it's you hear a wonderful story from all the people. Unexpected. A lot of the people I was thinking, there was a set of people I would want to interview, but it turns out that the people I interview are very different from what I envisioned, expected. Intentional. I think everything I learned in life is people think that luck play a role, but in the end of the day, if you look at all the successful people done, if they done something successful, they were more intentional doing things rather than things just happen by luck or by chance. It's a very personal experience writing. Less so myself, but you hear all the story from all my fellow authors share deeply personal story. It's truly inspirational to hear everybody's story.
So powerful and never short on reflecting and being so thoughtful about all things. Xinjin, what's a closing thought you'd like to share with our listeners here today as we wrap up?
I'm seeing take the time to know yourself and understand what's truly important for you. Be yourself. And I'm repeating myself, but self-awareness doesn't just happen. It has to be an intentional process to go through. Only then you can become a more effective and more confident leader. Self-awareness can lead to self-confidence, and then become a more effective leader.
I think that thought very well speaks to the title of your book, The Odyssey of Self-Discovery on Becoming a Leader. Xinjin, thank you so much for joining, being a part of the creative community and sharing your story with Meet the Author Live, and certainly the podcast, which is already out on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcasts. But thank you so much for sharing your story with us today.
Thank you, John, and thank you for all of you who attended. Hope you enjoyed reading my book, and I'm looking forward to hear your feedback.
Lovely. Thanks again to our listeners for joining this episode of Meet the Author Live. Definitely go check out Xinjin's book, available now, The Odyssey of Self-Discovery on Becoming a Leader, wherever you buy books online, and see his full interview on the Creative Community Podcast on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Be sure to subscribe to the Creative Community channel and to stay up to date on all our live interviews and podcasts coming out. Thanks again for joining us. I'm your host of the Creative Community, John Saunders. Keep creating.
Thank you.